Good evening, everybody. This is Derek with the Grumpy Guy Show for episode number 43. It's a waste of time. Recorded on March 21st, 2021. Tonight, we have a couple of cool topics. The first of which is MTVing the Food Network, how this happened to me, and more on sports betting. Stick around. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Grumpy Guy Show. I'm Derek McAllister.
I'm Ryan McAllister.
So tonight we got Ryan a little dark again because, well, it's spring break for him and he's at home and we haven't done anything about that yet. Hopefully we'll figure something out, but who knows. So the topics tonight most of them came tonight, which, yeah, it's really, really sad, but I don't know if it's just because I'm not watching the news enough or not paying attention or because I'm trying to do too many things at once, but that's my excuse. I don't know what Ryan's excuse is.
It's always been basically schoolwork. Lately, at least.
Yeah. Well, doesn't mean you don't need to pay attention to the news. But at any rate. So how about we do one of our famous transitions?
Transition.
Yes, folks, in case you didn't know, that was a transition.
It was. It really was.
That's how the pros do it. All right, so the first topic that we have, it's one that's kind of bugged me a little bit for a while, and it has to do with something similar to what happened back in the 90s with MTV. Now, most people that are beyond 30 know what MTV used to be. The M is music. TV is television. It was music television. That's all it was music videos. Constantly. I mean, it was like radio, except it was music videos. And then suddenly, that all started fading away. And then you got all these reality shows, and you got this show and that show. None of which had anything whatsoever to do with music. Mm-hmm. I mean, well, I don't even know the reality shows that were on there, but yeah, the first one I was like, what the heck's that got to do with music? It was like the start of reality television, basically. And, it was those things where it was really truly all about sex and whatnot, just how can you get away with having sex with a whole bunch of people? How can you justify it and stuff like that? And it's just, it's ridiculous. It's gotten to be worse. And, there's no music on it anymore. So they should have changed the name. But what's happening that's bothering me is the same thing is happening to the Food Network. Mm-hmm. It's not that, it's all reality shows and everything. No, what's happening is you're getting less and less as far as cooking shows and educational shows where you actually learn how to cook, and more shows along the lines of Guys Grocery Games or something like that, where it's a competition. It's not something where you're going to learn anything from. I'm not saying that some of them aren't entertaining, like Worst Cooks in America is very entertaining because you see how stupid people are. And you can't put it any other way. Some of these people are just plain stupid. Mm-hmm. Oh, why won't this spoon cut this steak? Duh. But yeah. So yeah, some of that is entertaining. And I'm not saying that Guys Grocery Games is a horrible show. Used to like it. I don't so much anymore. I think it's run its course, but it's gone from shows about cooking like Emeril Lagasse had with I can't even remember the name of the show now. But he educated people and did it in a fun way. And then there was, Good Eats. Same type thing. Educated, but in a fun way.
Mm-hmm.
And then there was the traditional stale cooking shows where, this is how you do this and this is what you do for that. Those were still valuable. But now, it's gotten to be all about travel. Go to these places and check these out. Oh, this is my favorite place. This is what I always get when I come here. Really? Because I find it funny that you claim to go there all the time, but nobody knows you.
Mm-hmm.
You didn't go there. And there was one show that we watched for a while because we liked the chef. And then all of a sudden, he would go to 3 different places in each episode. And then all of a sudden, it got to be that he was actually physically only at one of those locations. The other one he'd talk about, he'd have a voiceover. It's like, wait a minute, you're not actually there. All you've done is they've sent a crew to go around and check this place out. And at that point, I was just like, forget it. He's not actually going. It's not his real recommendation. It's these restaurants in cities that are paying for the Food Network to send somebody there.
For the recommendation.
Yeah, it's just to, I got to get tourism up. Well, what if we spend $100,000 to have Food Network come in and do a show on this restaurant? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And like, Diners, Drive-Ins, and Dives was another one, where he'd go and everything he had, oh my God, that's good. Oh, that's off the chain. Oh, that's off the hook. Not everything can be great. He never went and said, that's really not my thing. But I don't know. But at any rate, so the Food Network started out as a network to teach you how to cook. And now it's gotten to the point where it's a network that has absolutely nothing to do with teaching you how to cook.
Mm-hmm.
It's gotten to be, well, this is a great restaurant. This is a great chef that's going to compete against these other 2 great chefs. Or, here's stupid people doing stupid things. Let's laugh at them.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Maybe it's just me. But, there needs to be a balance. Yes, you can have cooking shows. And and I understand that sometimes cooking shows can be a little dry. But at the same time, you can't have your entire network focused on competition shows.
Mm-hmm.
I find it to be extremely difficult to deal with. And, we used to watch it all the time. We would literally watch Food Network, 2 to 3 hours a day. But now we end up hunting and pecking around, and most of the time, because there's no good comedies on anymore, we end up watching reruns of comedies. Ooh. So what ends up happening? Well, we end up sitting there wasting time just with the TV going in the background, scrolling through social media or playing video games.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't, I would be perfectly fine with getting rid of television. Except, well, somebody in the house likes to watch NASCAR, and of course that requires this stuff. And of course your mother has to watch her stuff too, and okay, I'm not the only one in the house, so I can't make that decision. But that doesn't mean that I want to sit there with the television going, not paying attention to the damn thing at all. And that's what happens most of the time, is it's there, somebody else is watching it, and I'm doing whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But that's the state that we're in with television, whether you're talking about Food Network or any of the others. there's nothing really enjoyable to watch all that much, you know? I mean, if the Food Network wanted to make it so that it was all about competition and travel, then they should have started another channel.
Mm-hmm.
And left this one, you know, for the educational piece. My opinion. But,
yep.
you know, you get people like you that you could learn a lot from watching somebody cook. You could learn an awful lot from somebody like Alton Brown, who makes it fun, you know, who teaches you why things work the way they do. But the problem is,
there isn't a show like that anymore.
No, there isn't. And it's really sad.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, and the other thing that bugs me about the Food Network, you hear about all, I mean, when I was growing up, all we ever heard was, oh, you got to eat everything on your plate because, you know, there's starving people in such and such country. You know, pick one. Mm-hmm. There's starving people there that would be happy to have that. And you watch the Food Network and you can't dice potatoes. You got to cut them off. You can't use that rounded part of the potato. Okay. It's got to be square. Well, what are you doing with all that extra?
Right.
Yeah, you gotta make
it out.
Yeah,
that's a waste.
Well, you know, even beyond that, these cooking competitions. So you have, you know, 3 to 4 chefs that are competing. And you have a couple of judges. So, like, for example, the one that we really like, Worst Cooks in America. Mm-hmm. What do they have? Well, they start out with 16 competitors.
Usually.
Yeah. And then there's...
sometimes more, sometimes less.
Yeah, then there's 2 instructors. Mm-hmm. So now, these 16 people are making a meal. These 2 instructors are tasting it. That's it. What happens after that? It gets thrown out. I mean, what a huge waste. I understand that, you know, there's an abundance of stuff in the United States, but that's a huge waste.
It is.
And, you know, it leads me right into why restaurants are so expensive. Well, they're so expensive because, number one, they're salting the living hell out of stuff. They're paying through the nose for all the salt they use. Mm-hmm. But beyond that, they've got to make sure if if their potatoes are diced, they've got to be diced. You throw out the extra. Well, no wonder it's so expensive. They just doubled the price of their potatoes.
Exactly.
You know? I don't know. A lot of this stuff just bugs me. And don't get me wrong, I enjoy going out to restaurants because I don't like to cook all the time. Your mother doesn't like to cook all the time. So once in a while, yeah, we go out to eat. But it's not, you know, there's so many people that are going out constantly. And
too many people.
Yeah, it's like if you're going out to eat 4 to 5 times a week, which there are people that do that. That's just insane. That's not only is that a huge waste of your money, but it's also a huge waste of resources because of how much food is thrown out. You know, a good restaurant will find ways to reuse things. For example, potato skins. Potato skins were a reuse of potatoes, leftover baked potatoes. Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, now what's happening? Well, now you can't get a baked potato where they originated, which is TGIF. You know, TGI Fridays. That's where I believe they originated. You can't get a baked potato there. So what are they doing with all the innards? They just bake them off, scoop them, and throw it out? Probably. Because even if they have mashed potatoes, I don't think they're selling enough mashed potatoes to balance out the amount of potato skins that they sell. You know, so it's just another situation where the United States just is wasteful. But what do I know?
Hmm.
All right, so I think I've gone off on Food Network enough.
Yep.
Perhaps time for another transition.
Yay.
Ooh.
What else we got?
So we're going to move on. Last week in Texas, I think it was Texas, there was a van that...
Down by the river?
Yeah. There was a... It was actually quite a tragic thing. A pickup truck crossed the center line and hit a van head on, and there were several student athletes in there, traveling back from a golf competition, and everybody involved in the accident was killed. So, extremely, extremely tragic. And when they were talking to people, of course, the news can't just leave it at that. They've got to go and talk to individuals. So they went and they spoke to one of the mothers of an athlete. And she said, "Oh, I don't know how this happened to my beautiful daughter. How could this happen to her?" Okay, well, first and foremost, we know how it happened. The truck crossed the center line and hit the van head on.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty simple. Second, it can happen to anybody.
It can.
It's not, it's not like your daughter was singled out.
To me.
I mean, yeah, there's nothing that says, you're gonna live forever just because you're beautiful. Just because you're beautiful and smart.
That's not how it works.
There's plenty of really dumb and ugly people who've lived a very long life.
Mm-hmm.
But this whole concept of how does this happen to me, it's something that's got to go away in the United States. We are so selfish. It's not even funny. We are. You hear when something happens, like like somebody gets held up or something like that. Oh, it doesn't happen here. Just doesn't happen often.
It does.
Yeah, I mean, it happens all over the place. Oh, it doesn't happen in small towns like this. It does. You just don't hear about it because it's a small town and the news doesn't care. But, people are just so self-centered and focused on themselves that they forget that this stuff happens all the time. It's not like, somebody has singled out this lady's daughter to say, she's going to be in a van on this road on this day. We're going to make sure she dies. Come on.
Mm-hmm. That's not how it works.
No, it's not. And it's really, really sad that, this lady, and it's not just this lady, there are millions of people all over the United States that think this exact same way.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there was, I can't even remember. It wasn't all that long ago. It was a surprise tornado or something like that. Really late in the season. Mm-hmm. And they were interviewing somebody and said, I just don't know how this happened. You live in Tornado Alley. What do you mean you don't know how it happened?
Tornadoes happen all the friggin' time.
A tornado can happen anywhere. We had tornadoes here in New York back in the 1980s. We've had a couple of them since then, but they haven't been as big.
Yeah, didn't we have a couple 10 years ago?
There was one that was much more recent than that. It was just a couple of years ago. But normally in New York State, they are not all that big. They're not all that powerful. And they don't last long. Mm-hmm. The last ones...
they don't do much.
Well, they do a lot, but just to a very confined area. It doesn't do anything like wipe out an entire town. But it can do a lot of damage. When I was younger, we had one. It actually went... So, I lived on an island. There was one way on, and it was just a loop and take you right back off. Down at the road where, the road where the outlet for the road I lived on had a tornado go through. And it wasn't just a short-term thing. It went for several miles, then jumped and hit someplace else. That's the only time I know of where we've had anything major. So if somebody in New York State said, this doesn't usually happen here. Notice I said usually. If they said something like that, okay. But if they said, oh, this doesn't happen here. Well, yeah, it does. It does. It's just not common. Where this tornado where this person was so totally shocked, it's a common area for tornadoes. That's why they call it Tornado Alley.
It is. I remember one a while ago that around here that tore up the drive-in. I believe it was at Minetto.
I don't remember, but there's been a couple of minor ones since you were born, but nothing major like what they get in Tornado Alley. The Midwest. They get hit hard all the time. Nothing like the hurricanes that hit the coast. Partly because, well, where we are well inland from the coast.
Thankfully.
Partly because it's just not common for them to come up this high. This far north. I don't know why. Things could be changing.
Don't.
Yeah, things could be changing based on, what's happening with the climate change. I'm not one to, pin the entire blame, and I think we've gone through this before, but I'm not one to pin the entire blame of climate change on humans.
Yeah, no.
But
I think humans have played a part in it. I think humans have sped it up a little.
Potentially, but
not all on humans.
But that's the key. It's not all on humans. But I am also the type that admits that climate is changing. There's no question. Yeah. But, who knows what it's going to bring? Is it going to bring tornadoes farther north? Potentially. Is it going to bring...
not.
Is it going to bring hurricanes farther north? Potentially.
Hopefully not.
Yeah, but, if you live in areas where hurricanes and tornadoes are common things, don't go on the news and say, oh, I can't believe this happened. Do you think some deity has got your house protected? Seriously, it's the people who really
in the Midwest, they are real Bible thumpers, so
yeah,
they probably do think that God has them protected.
The when you actually listen to anybody on the news after a tragedy, you can tell where their mind is. If they say, at least everybody's alive, then they understand what's going on. If they say, I lost everything, all they care about are things.
Selfish.
Yeah, they just care about things. And I'm sorry, but that's not what you need to worry about. Computers, photographs, stuff like that, yes. Maybe it has some meaning to you, but they're just things. The fact that you're alive is huge. And too many people forget about that. And, the worst are usually the ones out in Hollywood. But what I do have to say is the first actor that I ever heard that knew, like I was saying, what it was all about, was Christopher Lloyd. His house was destroyed by a wildfire. And he said, well, at least we're all alive. I lost my house and my things, but I've got my pets, I've got my family. And I was like, whoa. Somebody's got it. You know,
Well,
it was a real shock to me because seriously, most of them are so materialistic that that's all they think about is, oh, I lost my stuff.
yep.
Yeah, well. All right.
Overall, people in the United States are overly materialistic.
Yes, I completely agree with that. We tend to be a very materialistic society, and it's really sad.
That's because we've become a bit of a commercialistic society.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's exactly why we're so materialistic.
Yeah. I'd have to agree with you. You know, it's a bit much, and you know it goes back to what I had said before, picking on you about Mountain Dew. You know, you see these celebrities, and you kind of go with them. Yeah, you follow along with them.
Yep.
But you know what can you do? I mean, it's unfortunate, but you do have to trust somebody.
Some things I stick to because of family's endorsement.
Yeah, well, but at any rate, you know, speaking of celebrity,
You're the reason why I would never buy an iPhone.
You know, honestly, an iPhone is a good phone. Don't get me wrong, and I've said that before. It's not for me, but it's a quality phone. It's just very expensive, and it has you locked in. Too
expensive.
Yeah. But the big thing is, when you get into one of the ecosystems, whether it's Android or Apple, you're kind of stuck there after a while because you've purchased apps. And if you switch, you have to repurchase them. So that's kind of where things get stuck and where people get stuck and fixed on it. You know? But at any rate, we were talking about celebrity endorsements. So let's do a final transition, or almost final transition. So
you can tell we're getting good at this, folks.
Yes, absolutely. So, you know, I spoke about it a few weeks ago, or maybe a month ago, something like that, with sports betting in New York. Online sports betting. It's now legal and everything. Well,
and ads are everywhere.
Yeah, and I complained about the ads being everywhere. But now they've started with
all those other ones.
They've started bringing in celebrities to endorse it. And I'm not talking, you know, Hollywood celebrities. I'm talking former athletes. So here's the big problem that I have with that. When they're an athlete, they are not allowed to bet. Anybody who doesn't believe me should just go and ask Pete Rose. So they're not allowed to bet, and now you've got all these athletes out there. Oh yeah, I use this all the time, or you should use this one. Wait a minute, you use it all the time? Really? I get that you're retired, but really? Come on, you're not using it at all. You know, I understand that, you know, they've gotten used to the wealth and everything, and now that they're not actually playing anymore, it's dried up.
Yeah.
But to go
Probably why Brady's never going to retire.
Yeah.
He doesn't want to do a million commercials.
He's just too stupid. But
also why Kevin Harvick won't retire. Oh, wait, he has to do commercials anyway.
Yeah. But, you know, my whole thing is, I mean, I can understand, you know, I can sort of understand, like, NASCAR, because, you know, these drivers don't have a choice on who's sponsoring them. But somebody like Peyton Manning, he has a choice.
Yeah.
He doesn't have to go and support DraftKings. He has a choice. He can say, no, I don't use that product. I'm not going to use that product. I don't endorse it. But instead, he's going the Facebook method of, well, if they're going to give me money, I'll go with it.
Yep.
You know, that's why there's so many ads on Facebook that are actually scams, because all Facebook cares about is, oh, they're giving us money. We'll take it. And that's what's going on with these pro athletes. Well, they're giving us money. I'll endorse it.
Exactly.
On. You know, I mean...
Shaq.
Yeah. You know, there's Shaq is another example with the General Auto Insurance or Icy Hot Patches. Give me a break.
Seriously, he's advertising everything.
Yeah. You know, they have no morals, because if they did, they would say, I don't use that, therefore I'm not going to endorse it.
Mm-hmm.
But hey, what do I know? But that's why there's no ads on here. Besides the fact that, you know, we don't have enough viewers to bother.
Nobody watches us.
We wouldn't get any advertising revenue out of it, you know, with the 2 normal viewers that we get each week. I mean, I appreciate the fact that they watch and everything, but you know, we're not going to get any ad revenue, so I'm not bothering. I'm not going to waste their time. I'm not going to waste my time.
Mm-hmm.
Especially
just a waste
since,
of time.
Yeah, especially since it wouldn't be a situation where I could pick whether or not to go with that advertiser. You know, if it's something that I don't agree with or something that I don't use, I really don't want to use. I really don't want to advertise it. But at any rate, folks, pretty sure you've heard the music going.
It's just a waste. Anyway, good night.
We'll see ya.